Tanchi, welcome back. This is my second in 4 tutorial videos for how to do Métis beadwork. I'm collaborating with Taking It Global for their program Create to Learn, which is in partnership with ImagineNATIVE. So thank you for joining me. Give them a follow on Instagram, Create to Learn, and also give me a follow if you want at Wapamasho Fine Arts. Wapamasho means reflection in Michif, which is the Métis heritage language. So without further ado, if you want to take it back to the first video in this series about making your pattern for your beadwork, I talk a little bit more about beading and sort of the traditions and why it's medicine and all the fun stuff in that first video. So go ahead, head back, watch that one if you want, or just keep watching for some how to stitch. We're going to cover stitching, and we're doing single needle stitch for the purposes of this tutorial. There's also double needle, which I use a lot as an advanced beader, but single needle is good. But what we're going to do today. So yeah, let's take it to the hands. You're going to need your pattern stitched onto the felt. You're going to need some Nymo thread. You can use other kinds of thread, but this is really what I like. It's nice and tough. It's not going to break on you. I think I've beaded so aggressively once that it actually broke, but it's, for the most part, it's really strong. Your beads are going to be really tightly stuck in your piece, and so that's what you want to get. They sell it at craft stores, so you'll find it. Sometimes, maybe not in a big spool like this, but it'll be called like Firewire, but Nymo, you want it to just say Nymo somewhere on there. There's lots of different colors. I tend to use the white because that's what I have the most of. I use some tweezers to get rid of my pattern once I've beaded it down. So you'll want something like that to help you get that paper out of your work. And then you need some scissors or some snips, and you need your beads. So these are our colors. You know, this is the design we're doing, but you can choose literally any color to make it your own. And yeah, and if you do, and if you make this at all, please send it to me, DM me. I'd love to see it once it's finished. In the last video, you would have seen how to make this beautiful pattern. This is what we're making. Lovely little Métis floral, quite simple. So we got one more step before we can start actually stitching our beads. So that is to get that pattern onto the stiff felt. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and a lot of people do lots of different things for this as well, but for me, I like to just stitch it down loosely with my needle and thread, so I'm going to go ahead and start that for you right now. Just like nice wide spaces, stitch it the whole way around. Whoever said beading wasn't a process is a guy that didn't bead. So, yeah. Just go ahead. Space it out. You just really want to keep the pattern steady. And as soon as you get your first, your outline down, you can start removing this paper. That in itself is a little bit of an obnoxious part of this whole process, but you really do need the paper to be your guide. So then once you're done that, just knot it around itself, because we're going to cut it off and then probably use the string, because I try not to waste string. So I am a double knotter, so I go ahead and do that again. And then you just take your little snips, your scissors, whatever, snip that off. It's good to go. Now we can get started actually tacking down some beads. We are going to start with the center. So there's orange and then a yellow outline of the orange. So we're going to start with some orange. Another trade secret, I like to cut out the middle of my pattern once it's down, because I find it really annoying to try and pick it all out later. So there you go. You can do that or you can not do that. It's just my preference. So to start, you're gonna bring your needle through to the top of your work. I've tied a knot in the bottom of it, so tie a knot, pull it through. Double knot's good. Then you're going to bring 2 beads down to the end of your thread. And you're going to bring the needle down beside those 2 beads. Okay, so they lay flat, and then you want to bring your needle back up through the work so you can see it. Bring it beside and in the middle between those 2 beads. Pull it over like that. Take your time with this, especially if you're just like really just starting out, because it's a little tricky to remember everything. So pull your thread over, and then this is called tacking. You're going to tack it down. Be prepared for your threads to get caught on every corner of your work and other beads at all times, and sometimes you'll even, as I've just done, sew through the thread. Just release that, take a deep breath, it's going to be okay. So then it's tacked down, right? So now we need to make sure that those beads will never move. So bring your needle back up through the work one more time. Bring it through those beads. Then they lie flat and beautiful. Pull through. Sometimes they're fussy. These guys are being fussy today, so just know that that's part of beading. And then that is done. So that's your initial beads sewn down. Pull tight. You don't want them to really move around too much. Like if you run your finger over them, they should stay straight. So then to finish up, you'll put the needle down one more time beside them, and then you're ready to move on to the next step. So the next step is going to be do that circle right around the outside of those 2 beads. So bring your needle up beside, and then you're going to grab 4 beads on your needle. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring them to the end and down to your work. Make a little smiley face with those first 2 beads. Bring your needle down. On the end of that little train, bring it up between the 2 beads. So you're going to tack down every 2 beads. I really recommend, until you get comfortable with this, to just use 4 beads at a time. It's easier to control, makes things look nice. So you tack down like that, right? Then you want to go up beside the side that you went down initially. So we're basically going back the other way now. Through all 4 beads, pull through. I think I've used the wrong needle today. I think I've used a needle that is too big for these orange guys. Anyway, then you pull through, pull tight. You're good, you're golden. So next step, we're going to do it again. This, my friends, is beadworking. We are on the final stretch of this circle. We got 1 more bead to put down. Sometimes it doesn't work out evenly. That's okay. So with your last bead, I'm just going to say string it down. Bring your needle through that first bead that you laid down in the circle, and then you've got it there. And all you're going to do is bring the needle down on the outside, right? And if you want, for good measure, you can tack it down. Just that single bead. Make room for yellow. we're going to do the same thing. I want to really make sure that you can see what I'm doing. So once you're done with that initial circle, it's looking good, tie off at the bottom. So how you tie off this line is you'll run your thread underneath and through the pellon, not through the other side. It's not all the way through. It's just kind of slightly underneath so that you catch some of the felt. Run it, and then you'll create a loop here, and this is the fastest way to tie off. Like, and I do it twice. It doesn't have to be in the same spot. It doesn't have to be perfect. No one's gonna look at the back of your beadwork. Unless they're another beader, then, you know, they might want to, because it's interesting to look at. Yeah. And sometimes things get caught, and you just have to understand that that's part of it. Okay, so you're tied off. You can decide to cut your string if you want a fresh start, or you can just keep going. I'm just going to keep going. So anywhere on there, let's do the next circle. I just really want to make sure that you can see what I'm doing, and the wider we get, the easier it is to sort of understand what's happening with the beads. So take 4 again, bring them down to the end of your string, hug them in to your circle, and tack them down. Initial tack 1. Tack them down to your work. Keep that string relatively tight. Bring the needle up next to the orange circle on the inside of your new train, and then bring it through the middle of the 4 beads, 2 on each side. Bring the needle down through the work again. That's tacked, pull tight, and then you'll go up through the side, pull through, and bring that needle through your work. And you're ready to start your next bit of your circle. I've done the first petal here, the first outline, begin the outline, because I really think you guys can handle it. So what I really want to show you is actually the next part, which is once you've got your first petal here, this is the only time I'm going to ask you to count your beads, because I think it's helpful. If the beads aren't exactly the same number, in, like, say this gold section, it's fine. Like, it still looks uniform, and it still looks nice, and you know, if anybody gets in there and starts counting all your beads, just rip it away from them, because they're being ridiculous. You will need to count your beads though for this section. So for this pattern specifically, once you've finished your petal, bring your needle back up and count out 8 beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's hard looking in the camera and then back your work. Bring your needle back up through those 8. Right? And that's how we're going to start the next petal. So again, don't worry if it's like sort of off of your pattern or anything like that. Take your 4. It's all going to line up in the end. It's all going to look fine. It's just, again, a lesson in patience, a lesson in taking a leap of faith a little bit. If you've ever wondered why beadwork is expensive, oh, I actually did 5 here, that's okay. Tack down that first 2, and you basically work your way backwards in the train, right? So, and then because I did 5, I'm going to tack down this guy too, the last one. And then bring my needle up through next to, right, and bring it through that train. If you've ever wondered why, I mean, this is why beadwork is priced the way that it is. It takes a long time, it's hard. Not to mention all the times that whoever's beading a piece for you has messed up and had to take the beads out and start again, or broken a bead and had to start again, you know. it definitely is a labor of love. I've gone and done 5 again. I guess I like the number 5. I'm gonna keep it to 4 actually. Get rid of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, especially with this, use your thumb to kind of guide the beads and tack them down. Continue in that way for all the petals and do the outline, and then you'll go around in the same way with the white as the second row. Really the idea is to just keep following through, so follow wherever you start your beads, follow that train through, and that way you won't be, you know, looping your thread too much behind. If you can see the outline, you can see the flower there. You don't really want big lines across the back of your beadwork. It's just a lot cleaner, and it makes it easier to deal with, to keep following that thread through. So with that in mind, finish up your outline, and then just keep going inwards and around until you get to the pink. Then what I would suggest for pink is, for pink and gold, is to just single stitch your way around, and then again with the gold. Don't count. If the beads are jagged or crooked or anything like that, you have too many beads on. So just take one off, see if they fit, and just be gentle and you know, clever, and you'll work it out. It'll be fine. It's really fun. One other thing I wanted to touch on just really quickly, I think you'll probably notice that there is an outlying bead in my work. This is a Métis teaching. It may also be a teaching in other nations' traditions as well, but I'm not sure. But I do know for a fact that this is a Métis teaching. This is what's called a spirit bead, and it doesn't match, and that's on purpose. We do this so that our work is imperfect on purpose, because we don't want to seem like we're making any sort of statement to creator that that our work in some way is better or anything like that to creator. In that way, it's respectful to our creator. So that's just a Métis teaching. You don't have to do your beadwork that way if you don't buy it or whatever, but I think it's a beautiful thing, and I like to incorporate it into my work. So it's not always as standout, but you'll usually find it, especially in my newer pieces, because to be quite honest, my pieces weren't good enough to embarrass creator in any way. So I wasn't that worried about it, but now I'm getting pretty good. So with that is how to go about stitching and beading a piece like this. So like I said, if you try it, send me a DM. I'd love to see it, or tag me in your photos. I'd love to see it and see your work. I hope that you enjoy the videos, and that you can start creating. If anything's been standing in your way, just try it. Get started. Now is a great time. So the next video will be how to edge and finish off that piece. So then we get to that's when we get to the hard part. But don't worry, you can do it. It'll be fine. So yes, thank you. Thanks again to Create to Learn. Go follow them. Follow me, Wapama Show Fine Arts, and see you for the next video. Merci.